Foster, and I'm talking about Spiritism. Today is Monday, March 14th, 2022. Before I begin, let's have a short prayer. Dear Jesus, please help us be inspired and give us the discipline to read about Spiritism and study about the spirit world and the processes of how we reincarnate, how we become a better person, what is our future, and how do we do best to learn and educate ourselves while we are here on earth. Amen. So today is question and answers about Spiritism. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments section. And then again, if you would like, please join the YouTube channel and hit the bell. That way you're notified whenever I do a live stream, which I do 3 times a week, Sunday, Mondays, and Tuesdays. So if you have a question, please enter that in the comment section. If not, I will read them from the questions that I get from people. And if you are watching this or watching any of my videos at later times and you have a question, just put it in the comment section. I'm notified when someone gives me a comment. And if it's a question, I cut and paste it into my Word document for questions. If you are interested in Spiritism and want to learn more about Spiritism, I recommend you go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and download my free PDF, Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. You can get that in English and in French. And if you don't want it in PDF format, you can get it in Kindle for 99 cents, or paperback, or in Audible format. I also have all my other books on the right-hand navigation page of that site. Now, to read the headwaters, to understand Spiritism and how it was codified by Allan Kardec, I recommend you read the Spirit's book. Again, you just can type in Allan Kardec space PDF, and you'll find it on PDF version. You'll find the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, and the Gospel According to Spiritism on many sites, free on PDF. You can also, of course, click on the picture of Allan Kardec on my site. It'll take you to the FEB bookstore, and you can order it there. I think it's only like $10. That doesn't include shipping, but then you can also order at your local bookstore or anywhere else. So let's begin with the questions. Let me hide this, and we'll show this in the stream. Oop, hit the wrong one. There. Okay. The first question. I have heard that nightmares is the soul going to the abyss or lower zone. Why does this happen? And how do scientific explanations for nightmares like trauma complement the Spiritist theory of the soul migrating when the person dreams? So first of all, yes. When you dream, and I've done videos on this, and I recommend if you dream is you write them down if you think you have messages sent to you, because a lot of times you will. So when you dream, it's your body can leave your spirit can leave your body. It's still attached by the cord, that silver cord, the paraspirit, and you can go to the lower zone or the abyss, which is a type of purgatory, or you can go to levels of heaven or different planets for that matter. You can go anywhere. It's up to where you want to go. Now, your recollections of this are fuzzy and hazy because it's a different dimension. There's no time. You can actually see time. You can see the past, present, and future of objects and of people. So, and you can see the aura of people. You can see if they shine, if they have a bright aura. I mean, they're pretty pure and good people, or if they're not so pure and good when you're in the lower zone. So it happens because that is our regeneration, our energy for our soul to escape from our physical body every night when we sleep. If we never dreamed, never went there, I think that we would lose some of our enthusiasm and drive to improve ourselves while on earth. So the spirit world allows that. And also for those who are spirits who are from heaven, and you have been working on teams and trying to get things done on heaven, at night, you'll go up there and you'll keep working on that project. You'll keep working for that team. You may find out that when you come back from your physical life, it's like, oh, I finished that project during my sleep. I didn't even know. So you're still available. You're still working for those uh, who want to think in those elevated positions. Now, then the opposite happens, right? You are driven by desires. Sometimes you want to go meet people. You want to talk to people who are on the same level or lower than you. You're looking for other maybe criminals or other types of desires. And then other times you have past spirits, are people that never liked you and want to tell bad things or try to do bad things to you while you are in the spirit world. And that's when you go to the lower zone. You are drawn there for some reason. Now, I always tell people you can tell when you're in the lower zone because you're either frightened or uncomfortable and you wake up not as relaxed as you should, a little stressed. Whereas the opposite is true of heaven. You wake up more relaxed. You wake up like kind of happy for, I don't know why. Why am I happy? And you never know. I mean, even with dull dreams, I've been having, ever since I became a spiritist, lots of extremely dull dreams. I will be in lectures, like in some sort of, I don't know what, some sort of campus. I don't know where it is. I'll walk from one room to another room. I never know what the lectures are. I'm always like lost. I go, I don't think I should be here. I don't know what's going on. And of course, I've had a medium tell me that's just because I'm attending lectures and meetings in the spirit realm, and I'm not really following it with my physical brain. Now, remember, your spirit brain is so superior to your physical brain that you have concepts and memories that your physical brain, they don't know how to handle. So it's like when the Native Americans first saw the Spanish ships come towards them in the new land, right? And they looked at those ships, and they'd never seen anything like that before. They thought, "Oh, those must be black clouds. That's a funny shaped black cloud." They had no idea they were ships, and then so their mind converted it into something that they could understand. The same way our dreams convert what we do not understand to something that we can. So therefore, you see, you see monsters, and you see just strange things happening when it's something that you cannot interpret. But what I keep saying, sometimes you can see numbers. I've seen numbers before. You can grasp the feeling. That's why I say if you feel strange or you don't feel good or you feel frightened during that dream, then you were not in heaven. You were in the lower zone. And that is something everyone goes to. Now, explanations for nightmares like trauma complement the spiritist theory of the soul migrating when the person dreams. And so if you've had a previous trauma and that's on your mind, then you'll go to where you've experienced that trauma, or you go to where you've experienced others in that trauma, or if you've been in a battle, you might go where you've killed other people. And so, yes, so that does complement that, what happens in real life, you may go revisit it. And you may even revisit that time loop in your mind where you relive it over and over again. And that's something you have to be very careful, because there are spirits who, when they die, are locked into some sort of memory loop where they replay something they did badly or something did badly to them. And they'll replay it over and over again. That's like sometimes there's ghosts that people detect in homes where there was murders or something else like that, where the spirits are on that lower level and they're tied to that house because they replay that scene over and over again. And those spirits will be rescued at some point in time, but it will take effort by the spirit world to rescue those people. So I hope that answers that question. Now, let's take the next question. At what point do we know when our souls were created? Were we all created at the same time, or do we all have different ages of our souls? So that's a great question. And the answer is, from what I have been able to find out from the spirits talking about that, is you're allowed memory of your past lives when you are ready for them. So you can die, go to the spirit world, and you still don't have memories of your past lives, because if you had memory of, let's say, your past lives, or a few or 10 past lives, you may be so shocked at the wrongs you did that you could not handle them. You weren't ready to see that the trajectory of souls come from very cruel and horrible people, to nicer and nicer people as we go through trials and tribulations, determined by the spirit world to help us become a better civilized soul. So that all depends on your advancement. Now, you may be able to then to understand your past lives from a very far time ago. I know that Chico Xavier had forgotten some of his past lives, and some people reminded him. He was a great medium who died in 2002 in Brazil, a spiritist medium who wrote more than 450 books when he was alive. They've done more than 50 books even afterwards, just from the writings and messages that he gave. And some people say he was Allan Kardec. And then people say in previous lives, he was a priest in Babylon. He was a pharaoh in Egypt. I mean, this is back 6,000 years ago in his previous lives. And who knows from other worlds where he lived in other worlds. So now, but you don't remember from what I heard, and I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I think. Is when we were created, we were just small little logical routines, and we controlled within this simulation called Earth. We controlled like maybe a virus or algae, and we relived these things in the next one, and more complex organisms as we went up. So you could take the step up to bacteria or a worm. And then finally, you go into more complex animals like a dog or a horse. And then they have a combination of free will and not. But then at some point in time, you become a primitive human who has free will. Of course, you always have your instinct. But even the advanced animals have a combination of free will and instinct, although they exercise it in a limited way. And if a spirit says, no, I want that horse not to do that, the spirit will command him. Now, when you're a human, you have free will and it's taken seriously. If you really want to do something, they may try and stop you by different circumstances, but you have the right to be as destructive as you'd like to be when you're a primitive human or whenever you're a human. That's up to you. So, but what I hear, you don't remember way, way far back before you were free-willed human, and maybe not even some of your first lives as a free-willed human. And maybe that's not necessary. In fact, what I've heard is that most spirits would have to go back and kind of really query the universal database of what they were, because they forget about that. It's not important. That's why spirits will not even remember that their name in past lives, because that's not important, what their name was. And because they consider this, and this is what's interesting when they say this thing, they consider their time on Earth and incarnated in a physical body, just to be kind of like what you considered when you were growing up to be your 1 and 2 week vacation, or as a young child or a teenager at a summer camp. Kind of a interlude. You may have learned some stuff, but quickly forgettable. And that as you went on, you're into your 30s, your summer camps kind of memories ran together, and you're not quite sure when you did that or when you did this, right? And it becomes successively less important because you've been through all that, right? Because really is what we are here. We are in this physical universe because we are in a more uncomfortable situation where we have to learn how to behave and how to improve ourselves. This is why we're on Earth. We're on Earth to improve ourselves and to get rid of our primitive emotions and replace those with advanced civilized emotions. That is why we're here. And Jesus spent a lot of time trying to explain that to people. Now, have people listen very well? Mostly not, but that is the reason. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Again, if you have any questions, please type them in. Okay, question 54. What does Spiritism say about witchcraft? How also are other Spiritist influenced religions, such as Candomblé, Santeria, Umbanda, Kimbanda, and they also call it Macumba in Brazil, perceived in the modern Spiritist view? Well, so there are people who consider themselves witches, they'll give, like, they call it the evil eye, right? They'll wish bad on people. They will enlist the help of lower spirits to try and affect someone uh, negatively. And when it's like when spirits talk about praying, when you pray to benefit someone, to help someone with the message of eternal love, those things are answered, and they try and help as much as possible. When you pray negatively, like against someone, well, be careful, because those prayers will be answered, but they may be answered in a way you would not at all guess at. Like, I was at a medium's meeting. I've said this story before, but this medium was then inhabited by a woman who started out with saying Zika, Zika, Zika. And then the consoling medium talked to the trance medium. The trance medium is the medium who has the spirit talking through them. Goes, what do you mean? He goes, I wanted my neighbor to die of Zika, but I died of Zika. So you can see it right there. This, you could call that, she probably was a Macumba, or however, whatever name you want to put it, someone who either killed chickens or prayed at altar or went to these these meetings, and these meetings are usually with sometimes very talented mediums, but they spend their time talking to lower spirits. And so, yes, they are there. Some of them try to do good. I mean, I met these people. They're usually nice people. And they talk to spirits, but they don't talk to raised spirits. And it's just like a lot of what we call spiritualism, and mediums who are spiritualists. They talk to spirits. And what I see is the great difference between spiritism and these other areas that you can call them Campbell or whatever, or even spiritualists, is when they talk to spirits, they get excited about talking to spirits. There is, and I'm not going to say this all the time, but usually what I've seen is there is no concerted effort to assess the level of that spirit, of who is communicating to you. And this is the important thing, is what Spiritism tells us. When you die, you are who you were when you pass over. So if you were a nice person, giving and generous, you're still a nice person, giving and generous in the spirit world. If you were a criminal who liked to rob people and steal money and be mean to all those around you, well, you're the same in the spirit world. If you were a know-it-all but really didn't know anything, weren't that intelligent, but you thought you knew it all, you are still the same in the spirit world. Therefore, when these spirits talk to mediums, the mediums get so excited because so many people believe that when you pass over, you become this enlightened, angelic, and super intelligent being. Well, not necessarily. You have to study and work and enlighten yourself in the spirit world, just like you do on the physical earth, and improve yourself. And that's why the book by Allan Kardec, the Medium's book, is so important, because they talk about the different types of mediums, what you can do, and the different types of spirits, and how to ascertain the level of the spirit that you're talking to. Now, so many spirits come and they'll say, "Oh, I'm Benjamin Franklin." Well, no, they really weren't, right? They're just saying that name because they just want you to think they're more important than they are, and they'll tell you all sorts of garbage. And that's why sometimes it takes multiple sessions for them to talk, but eventually they will expose what level they are on. So, Spiritism doesn't condemn anything, right? Because we always look to ourselves first. We know that we all make mistakes. So, but just to let you know, those type of things, some people like them, some people find uses for them, but they are really talking to unenlightened spirits. It doesn't mean they're not. And sometimes they're not intelligent and they're not trying to do help, but they're just not the spirits who are on a heavenly level. So we find nothing wrong. It's not like we're mad at them or anything like that. That's just, we're just saying it's not going to be as efficient as you think it is. And You never, and we also say don't use them to try to get advantages of other people, because that will come right back at you. That's not a good idea. Okay. Next question. Can a soul descend from heaven back into the lower levels or the abyss? And the answer is yes. It's very, very rare. And usually what happens is what happens is within the level of heavens, a person, and for the, just for the sakes of a numbering system, the spirits that talk to the Reverend G. Val and say there's levels from 1 to 10. Some people say 3 levels of heaven. Some people say 7 levels of heaven. And the spirits say all these are fine, right? There's no like border wall, right, with a gate between the levels of heaven. It's kind of going from one land to another, and you feel, if you're at a lower level, you go into a higher level, you feel uncomfortable. You're not really ready for that. The light's too bright, etc. So sometimes spirits are up a level, maybe level 2 or 3 or something like that, and they're really not ready. And they'll go back to the first level of heaven. And sometimes they'll go back to the lower zone because they're not comfortable with that. Now, I've never heard anybody go into the abyss, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I just have not heard of it. I would think that would be extremely rare, but they just don't feel comfortable. They still have these personality quirks. I've heard of, in one spiritist literature where a spirit wanted to go back to the lower zone because he really liked eating, and he liked doing the more material things, right? Because the lower you go back to the earth, the more material you are. Whereas the higher you go in heaven, you kind of give up eating. You're not really focused on what's going on in the world, right? You don't care about the political parties. You don't care that you may feel sadness that us humans on earth do stupid things, but you're to say, okay, well, they're going to have to learn that. That's a mistake, but they'll have to learn that. So the higher you go, the less you are tied to the material plane. So some people just can't let go of that, and they go back down. And also then people who start in the lower zone many times will go lower into the dark abyss because they're given a chance to try to work themselves out of the lower zone. Instead, they get influenced by other spirits, and they will be drawn down even deeper into the dark abyss, into the lower levels of hell, and go through a horrible experience. But eventually, they will come back up again. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next question. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. When you have a nightmare, does it mean your soul is in the dark abyss? If so, does it mean I will go there if I die? Well, first of all, yes. When you have a nightmare, it means your soul is not, it could be in the lower zone or the dark abyss. The lower zone is from the crust of the earth to the lowest level of heaven. And the dark abyss, according to Spiritism, is from the crust of the earth down. And that's a geometric way of looking at those two areas. And actually, all these are states of mind and parameters where you are. But let's look at it that way. No, it does not mean you go there when you die at all. It just means you were drawn there for some reason. You were drawn there that you needed to talk to someone, or you had something to work through, or you were attracted to lower spirits, and they were trying to influence you. Let me give you an example. This one wonderful medium, just a very powerful medium, great spiritist medium, the nicest woman ever. But she was very jealous of her husband. And so when she went to sleep, 2 other women spirits would get her when she was asleep, say, "Oh, let's talk about this." And then and she was in the lower zone, and they'd tell her, "Look, your husband is at this club. Your husband's horrible." Right? They would just give her all sorts of things to think about when she woke up, that her husband was just terrible and trying to make her anxious and stressed, so she wouldn't be as effective as a medium, right? Because the better mediums are spiritually elevated, and they try to be calm and stress free, because it's not easy being a medium. You have to be in the right state of harmony and vibration. So this is, so it just means that you were at that point. And a lot of times is if you wake up and you suspect somebody doing something, think about it carefully. Think about if this wasn't a seed planted in your mind in order to harm you or someone else. So no, it absolutely does not mean you're going to go there when you die. It just means you were there for that period in time. Oh, I'm going to get back to this. I did that wrong. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the next question. Are nightmares premonitions of my destination? And the answer is no. They are not. They could be. They could be, and they could be warning you not to do something, and if you're of your predetermination, but they're not absolute saying this is going to happen to you. They are more on the way. Now, usually. So as I'm talking about this, I'm retracting my first impression when I said no. So, because now I think I'm understanding the question better. So, we all have a plan. When we are in the spirit world, we have a plan of what we want to do. And if you're in one of the levels of heaven, you work with your spirit mentors and you plan out the blueprint of your life. Now, when you go off that blueprint, you will be warned by people. Now, usually when you're warned by people not to do something, you'll be warned by a passed away mother, grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, right? Or your guardian angel. And you'll be saying, and it should not be a nightmare. It should be a gentle thing saying, I don't recommend this, right? I think it's wrong. And so usually that won't be a nightmare. It will be a saying, no, don't do that. Go down this other path. So, but they may appear a nightmare to you. So I'm not quite sure. It all depends how you feel. As an example, Camilo Branco in the book Memoirs of a Suicide, when he was a son of a very struggling, very poor noble family in Spain, and his destiny was supposed to be is to work the farm, marry some nice village girl, and try and become a better person. Instead, he fell in love with another impoverished noble girl, but she found a more rich noble man who she truly loved. And then he said, okay, I'm going to become a member of the Jesuits. I'm going to become powerful and I'm going to get my revenge. And he had dream after dream of people telling him, don't do this, please. That's not a good idea. Don't, because he had gone through lives where all he wanted was revenge all the time. He wanted to do this or he wanted to do that, right? And they're trying to kick him of that habit. And so, and say, no, just be happy with what you're at, till the land, live a humble, life, not easy life, but a life that is true and try to be kind and learn that. Instead, he joined the Jesuits, became a torturer in the Spanish Inquisition, and eventually got revenge on the poor man who married his love of his life. He actually blinded him. And of course, then Camilo Branco, in a later life, he committed suicide when he became blind at an advanced age. So this is kind of how all this stuff works. Remember karma, every action has a reaction. Everything comes back to you. So it's very important to know that. Okay. Next question. Does everything bad happens to someone always occur in result of karma from a past life? And the answer is not everything. There are things that are just there to be experiences. Now remember, why are we on earth? We are on earth to learn and to become a better spirit, a pure spirit. And yes, the main reason for our being on earth is that we are here to rip out our primitive emotions and replace those with more advanced emotions. But we are also on earth to gather a wide range of experiences. So you could be born a woman in one life into a nice middle class family, and then the next life you're born into a military family as a male, and you go to war because they want you to learn about military organizations and how to be a commander of men and women, and what is that like, right? They want to broaden your horizons. So it's not always because of karma. Usually I would say 90% of the time, and I'm just throwing this out, is because of karma. But there are experiences you need to have, and you could consider that bad. And maybe when you're in the spirit world, you'd think, it's not that bad. I can do that, right? So it's funny when people plan out their lives, they usually consider that they can take stuff more than they can when they're on the physical life, because in the physical life we have a tendency to whine and complain about things we don't like. We're not as stoic as we should be. In fact, the great medium, as I said before, Chico Xavier, when he was on live TV one day, someone asked him a question, said, Chico, what would you say to the people of Brazil? And he said, well, I tell them to stop complaining, do your job and stop complaining. And of course, yes, that is that's what we should be doing. Now, I do that? No. Do I, if I not, have I stopped complaining? I've been less than I used to, but still I complain. I know I shouldn't now. I know better when before I was a spiritist, I complained way too much and whined way too much. So, but it's, because you're in this life, in this body, in the circumstances that you are, because of a plan that you may have been a part of, decided by you, that you made in the spirit world, and now you're on earth and you're living through it. So as I tell people, that nose you have, that, kind of not distinct, and that you not as formed as you'd like, or just whatever type of characteristic that you don't like about yourself. Well, when you were in the reincarnation pavilion, you had the freedom to pick your body, and you probably picked it so you weren't too handsome or too beautiful, because if you're too handsome or too beautiful, you have a tendency for people to do too much for you, or they're too jealous of you. There's a lot of negative things, and sometimes life is too easy. And does that help you spiritually? I remember I talked to this one guy who was very shy, and a little bit, just really tough to be sociable. And he had a little bit of autism, he said. I believe that's what he said he had. He was a very handsome guy, because I saw him on either Skype or Zoom. I can't remember what, but handsome guy. And he's been talking about Spiritism, and we talked one day, and he says, because he said, am I ever going to be able to have a relationship with a girl? And I said, look, you're a very nice looking young man, but because of what you perceive as your deficits, you're concentrating on spirituality and Spiritism and improving yourself morally. If you did not have this deficiency, as you put it, would you be doing this? And the answer is no. So, and another person I knew was a great singer, and yet he had some problems too. And what my intuition was, and I could be wrong, was that in a past life, He was a great artist, famous. He took advantage of it, took advantage of other people. And in this life, they said, no, we're kind of going to eliminate that for you. We're going to push that down. And so, you're in where you are because of what has been done in the past. And you're given these things to kind of have you exercise other parts of your behavior. And of course, I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe there are instances of famous and great artists who have gone beyond their disabilities, and they were just so smart. They said, disability, I'll still make it. Like Toulouse-Lautrec, right? Remember how he was, I think his parents were first cousins, if I remember, and his legs were very stunted. But he still became a famous painter. And it just shows you the amount of they couldn't quite disable him enough, so he was obscure. Someone even like, let's say, Frank Sinatra, who was, when he was born, had a pierced eardrum, and yet he learned how to sing wonderfully. So again, that, having a pierced eardrum and having legs that are stunted, those aren't random occurrences. Those are occurrences planned. And therefore the spirit world kind of like, let's make it a little bit tougher for these people to not be too successful too fast. And yet they probably were still successful because they were just so brilliant. And of course, there's a great illustration I believe in the book No Solar, if I remember. It might not be that one. It'd be one of the series of Andre Louis books. No Solar is the first book. It's also a movie I would recommend, Astral City, where this woman was in the reincarnation pavilion. And she's looking at her body and she says, no, you're making me too beautiful. Come on. I have spiritual goals in life, and I want to meet those spiritual goals. I don't want to be too beautiful and have my life too easy, because I will not reach my goals. So again, this is a classic instance of someone not wanting a perfect body, because the more perfect you are, the more symmetrical you are, the more charisma you have, and it can be great, but it can also be detrimental. So, okay. Let's go to the next question. Do spirits that incarnate from heaven still pay for their past wrongs, or do the hardships that occur to them in their material lives occur in order to simply discipline and not the result of any karma? So, again, this shows that you don't have to be a saint to go to heaven. So there are many wonderful people in heaven that who lived in heaven, come here and pay for their past wrongs and want to take out things, right? And it happens all the time. So in the levels of heaven, you don't have to be this perfect saint. You're still, as long as you have a propensity to the good and you're trying to be better, you'll make it in one of the levels of heaven. And then you'll come and you'll plan for your next life to improve and or pay for some sort of past wrong. So most of it is the result of karma. Now, some of it is the result of what they're doing on their mission, right? Because they have a mission to undertake. They will volunteer for a mission on Earth. And like Chico Xavier, I don't think he had any karma, but yet he lived a tough life. He had to work when he was young. He had a stepmother or godmother, not stepmother, but he was with some woman that just tortured him. Finally, after his mother died, his father remarried and had the wonderful wife who wanted all the kids back together again. But he had his eye problem when he was a child, because he had to work in a textile industry. And so I'm still trying to figure out, why did he have to go through all that? Because I can't conceive that he had anything to pay for. But maybe he felt differently. Maybe he wanted to pay for something. Another instance that I read about was this woman who was a queen. And again, this is kind of telling everybody this story is that don't wish to be a famous queen or king or something like that, because when you are powerful, you have more chances to do harm, even though you may not realize it. So this queen had done many things. In fact, they described her as the best of friends to her friends and the worst enemy to her enemies. She spent lives trying to repair the wrongs that she did. And she made it to heaven, but even then she didn't feel that she repaired the wrong. And she said, no, I want to come back and be completely disabled, bedridden my whole life. And that's what she did. And again, you'll see other instances where you'll see this wonderful man or woman who will just like is the nicest person and just a wonderful person. And then something horrible happens to them. You go, well, God's not just. Something horrible happened to this wonderful person. And from that narrow point of view, one can absolutely see the point of view. But you have to look and say, okay, what did they do in the past life? And did they ask for that to happen? And usually they did. If they were a really nice person on earth, they wanted to go through some traumatic episode so they could pay back what they did wrong. Okay, let's next question. Is it true what Emanuel Swedenborg says, that angels were once human? The Bible clearly states that God made humans just a little lower than the angels, which shows me that the angels were a separate race from humans. Angels were made from light, and humans were made from the sand or clay in the earth. Does Spiritism shed any light on this topic? Yes, they do. So, Emanuel Swedenborg was correct. And the fact that, let's go about humans made from sand or clay. So when you're thinking of humans made from sand or clay, you're looking at life from a physical concentric idea. And physical humans are just a temporary clothing that we have. It's just another piece of cloth that we have to put on top of ourselves. It's like a diving suit that's cumbersome and heavy. You can't see very well, you can't feel very well, and you're not as smart. So, as I said before, the way it's made, angels were humans who have gone through spiritual maturity and spiritual steps. Jesus Christ, the leader of our planet and other planets besides, was once on our same level. But he's gone through, who knows, billions of years and who knows how many lives to be the wonderful, just excellent leader that we have, our Father. And spirits say that we are so lucky to have someone like Jesus in charge of us as our leader, our governor, our president, whatever you want to call him. So, spirits, as I was saying before, are little pieces of logic, and they go through time, for probably billions of years, from rocks to one-cell organisms to more complex, to finally humans, free-willed humans, and then they go through who knows how long, thousands and thousands of years, improving themselves, and then they may get to the point where they're at a high level in heaven around the earth, and then they go above that level, and they will be productive members of the spirit society, and work on being a minister to someone like Jesus, on helping a human or human-like race on another planet evolve, or maybe the animals evolve, or the plants on that planet evolve, maybe even helping forming that planet. All those things, those are jobs. Some of the jobs that are in the spirit world to help spirits grow and mature and become productive members of society. You look at the earth, and the heaven surrounding the earth is like a college campus. So you're on the campus in the physical life, and you're still on the campus in the heaven. And it's all part about improving yourself enough so you can graduate from that last level of heaven surrounding the earth to spirit society, and then really become part of a team that is productive. Just like a college student is smart and wonderful and good to talk to, but they're not really productive yet. They're still a negative because society is paying for their education to a certain extent, right? They're not contributing, they're learning so they can contribute at a later time. So angels are us. They are more mature, more spiritually mature. It depends, right? The trajectory that you are on, you can improve as fast as you want. You can become like an angel if you really want to work at it and become a very good soul on earth, like, Mother Teresa and like Chico Xavier. You can consider them angels. Although other people like me, no, we're still, way down there on the stepping, on the ladder. But eventually, everyone will become a pure spirit. Everyone will become on an angel level. It may take eons and lives on other planets and more experiences, but the spirit world, doesn't give up, and they have all the time in the world, and you have all the time in the world too, because you are immortal. So you can be as slow or fast as you want. So the Bible, and remember what Spiritism said about the Bible. And I know many people believe that every word of the Bible is absolute truth. And what Spiritism says is that Jesus and the spirits around him communicated to people, the prophets and mediums that helped write the Bible, in the culture and technological level that they were at the time. They communicate to them. So if there was a spirit that communicated to, someone in the Old Testament, saying, hey, we're going to have cell phones, and you'll be able to call anybody you want to. They go, what? They wouldn't even understand it at all. If that spirit said, now you have to love everyone, even people, whatever gender, you can have marriage between two genders, because spirits can come back as a man or a woman. Doesn't make a difference. So love should be admired, whatever. They would say, this must be a bad spirit talking to me. They wouldn't accept that. So they had to talk to them at the level that they knew that they could reach them. It's like a teacher. A teacher is not going to go to a first grader class and say, hey, today we're going to learn calculus. Nothing would happen. That's not going to happen. That's why when people say the Bible is the be all and end all, the Old and New Testament, no, it's not. Spiritism says that the messages of love and charity and fraternity are eternal in the Bible. But the other messages could be depending on the level of technology and culture at the time when they received those messages. And there was a great vignette in one of the Spiritist books I read where a spirit was saying, look, why would you confine the Word of God and Jesus to a book? How can you confine that? Why are you limiting them to one point in time, or many points in time, but the words in one book, and you can never change in 2,000 years? That's like saying, okay, the weather last Sunday was sunny, and it has to be sunny for the rest of infinity. No, they have the right to tell you. And that's what Spiritism came and told us in the 1850s, is that this is a dynamic thing, and that we were going to have more mediums, more communications with spirits who would come and talk to us and would give us more information. In fact, that's what Allan Kardec codified in the Spirits book about what the spirits. He had 1,019 questions. He gave them to multiple mediums and did not accept the answers unless they're the same or similar. And that's what Jesus promised when he said, I'm going to send you a consoler. And this is so if you want to believe the New Testament, right? He said, but the consoler, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, I will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. And that's John 14, verse 26. So he said he's going to send more information. Why would he send in more information? Because we are advanced enough to understand the information. Because at the time of Allan Kardec in the 1850s, he could understand the information. Now, when we've had further information coming to us in Spiritist books by Spiritist mediums, dictated by Spiritists under the leadership of Jesus Christ, and they're telling us more things. They're telling us about molecules. They're telling us about power. They're telling us about, Chico said that the levels of heaven around the earth are always 50 to 100 years in advance. So when these inventions come out, people, when they incarnate, their minds are pre-attuned to accept, oh, cell phones. Yeah. I mean, in Star Trek, where they had those communicators, I'm sure some guy was inspired to put that in that, into that TV series. So then someone later on could say, oh, I can invent that. Things, and most geniuses and people who invent are inspired by spirits. They do a lot of work, and they're smart, but they're inspired by spirits. So that's what we have to remember. So therefore, we are going to be constantly communicated. Leon Denis came after Allan Kardec, told us a lot of information. Reverend G. Val Owen, talking to the spirits and as told to by under the direction of Jesus Christ, came back and told him a lot of information about the higher levels of heaven. What is heaven like? What do we do in heaven? Well, how does the spirit grow in heaven? Right? And I talk a lot about this in my series of 3 books, and you really get down into the nitty-gritty of what's going on in heaven in my book Heaven and Below, book 1 of Spiritism. And it's telling us and this is not something that I created. This is something that spirits have told Spiritist mediums of what heaven is, who Jesus Christ is, what the lower zone is, what the dark abyss. So you can read and understand, and then you can make your decision of, do you want to read and study and improve yourself because of what you understand now about your place on this physical earth and your place in the spirit world? Because it's all up to you. No one is telling you in Spiritism that if you don't believe what I tell you, you're going to be damned. No, there's no eternal damnation. Spiritism does not like to use the word sins. They like to use the word wrongs, because wrong is what you believe in your own conscience to be wrong, not what someone tells you that is wrong. And your own conscience is a set of divine laws implanted into each one of us. So we know when we've done wrong. Some of us may be too primitive to adhere to that message saying, don't do that. Oh, no, I want to because I'm going to get money that way, right? That's a primitive spirit who can't control their desires. But the spirit world will lead that person in life after life to where they should be. But that's why we are constantly given more information. And then in my second book, which is Spirits in the Spirit Universe, and then my third book is How We Are Guided by Spirits. And the Spirits in the Spirit Universe tells, okay, how do you learn as a spirit? How do you advance as a spirit? When you advance from one level to another, you don't just get a diploma saying, oh, you're ready to advance. No, you get more attributes. You become less matter, more energy. You become, you reflect more of God's light, like angels. We were talking about angels. People look at these high spirits, they think they're angels because they see this fuzziness. Well, they see this fuzziness because this spirit is very mature, and the more mature and higher level they are, the more they reflect the love of God that's in the atmosphere. And so that person who's on a lower level can't see. It's too bright for them. They can kind of make fuzziness out of their faces and stuff like that. But if you're on the same level as that person you consider to be an angel, you would see them as a regular person, however they wanted their paraspirit to appear. So that's why Spiritism is here, just to lay these things on the table. We're not pushing it down your throat. We're not saying, oh, your life's going to be horrible if you don't do this. No. It's up to you. You're immortal. You're going to have plenty of time to make as many mistakes as you wish. The worst person on earth will someday become a pure spirit. It may take millions of years, but it will happen. They will be led somehow by the spirit world through trials and tribulations, maybe not on this world, but on other worlds. They will get there, and so will you. The speed of which you get there is entirely up to you. Will you become humble like the child, like Jesus said, and say, okay, I don't know everything. Maybe I should read and study a little bit. Maybe I should understand what's going on. If you are that way, you will rise quicker. So I think I will stop here. And I want to thank everyone for being part of our meeting today and wish you a wonderful night and God bless all of you. And remember, I am on, I'm starting at 5 o'clock Eastern, I think, during these live streams coming up because daylight saving times changed in the United States. And I'm recording from outside the United States. So I decided not to change with the United States time. I'm just staying on my time here, and the daylight saving times the United States has changed. So now it's probably 5 o'clock Eastern that where I'm coming now. So anyway, bless you. I hope you all please download the Spirits book. It's free. Download my Spiritism 101 on PDF from my site, nwspiritism.com, and have a wonderful rest of the week.